The object of Julian's fascination was a Californian, heir to the sterling media fortune, to be precise. Julian had been quietly observing him for 2 years and was only just now learning this crucial fact. It wasn't entirely his fault. Alex Sterling, with his sharp jawline, straight nose, and a surprising height of 6'1", didn't fit the sun-bleached surfer stereotype Julian held. It was a lazy generalization, he admitted to himself, but it was all he had. His name, Alex Sterling, didn't scream West Coast either. It sounded more like the protagonist of a novel set in a cutthroat New York high-rise, the kind of place where being seen with a Dunkin' Donuts coffee was grounds for social exile. They were classmates in the same program at the university in Austin. The first year had been a blur of remote classes, so Julian had never actually laid eyes on Alex. When their cohort finally gathered for the first time sophomore year, Alex's presence on stage during introductions had immediately captured his attention. The man was handsome, unequivocally his type. Julian, for his part, was a New Yorker born and bred, an only child from a family with a formidable zip code. He was also gay, a fact his family had known and accepted for years. He'd never been in a relationship, and so he embarked on a grand, albeit one-sided, romance. It wasn't quite a crush, more like casually following a niche indie celebrity. He kept tabs on Alex's general movements, his academic progress, and his aesthetic well-being. Most importantly, he needed to know if there was a girlfriend in the picture. That first night of sophomore year, he'd called his mother. After a moment's thought, he inquired about the modern availability of private investigators. She told him he was insane and hung up. His best friend, Leo, was less dramatic but equally unhelpful, suggesting he simply search the university's online forums. A brilliant idea, Julian thought, until he remembered the forum was a chaotic wasteland of stolen meal delivery complaints, lost and found posts, and ads for local businesses. Thankfully, after a thorough digital and real-world reconnaissance, he concluded Alex was single. He settled into his secret admiration with a sense of peace. Life needed a little bit of longing, after all. A secret crush was different from a real one. There was no agonizing wait for a text back, no shared future to build or lose. The feeling was a delicate, intense, and fleeting thing, blooming in the solitude of his imagination and destined to wither under the reality of their 2 years of near strangerhood. Leo had berated him for it, pointing out the absurdity of adding romantic pining to a life already overflowing with project deadlines, mandatory seminars, and the desperate scramble for participation grades. Julian's only defense was a simple statement about his status as an only child from a good New York family, which prompted Leo to block him temporarily. A quick wire transfer of $5,000 smoothed things over, and Julian went back to scouring the department's website for new photos of Alex. Their paths rarely crossed. Julian lived in a rented apartment off campus, forfeiting any chance of a fateful roommate assignment. All he knew for sure was Alex's student ID number was 30. It was for the best. Distance, he reasoned, maintained the allure. That changed in their junior year when they were placed in the same group for an economics class. It was a disastrous elective for Julian, an art and design major who had chosen it on a whim, thinking it would be a challenge. It was a challenge, all right. The professor spoke of curves and theories, using words Julian understood individually but not in sequence. Alex became his savior. He was patient, never once making Julian feel like the dead weight he surely was. He answered every foolish question, sometimes breaking into a smile at Julian's wild analogies. He once asked, with a hint of amusement, if Julian had a family company waiting for him. Julian admitted he did. Alex looked at him with mock solemnity and offered his condolences. They both collapsed onto the library table in laughter. When Alex smiled, His eyes curved into crescents, his lashes fluttering. Julian had to look away. Beside him on the table sat a cold brew coffee from a tiny, cult favorite shop that, according to campus lore, had a 30-minute line at all times. He wondered if Alex had waited. The thought made his own heartbeat sound unnervingly loud in the quiet library. So much for distance creating beauty. Proximity, he was discovering, was even more potent. The rest of their university years passed without incident. They saw each other in class, and then, during their senior year, they scattered for internships. Julian went home to his family's sprawling apartment, painting, playing video games, and generally enjoying his lack of responsibility. On graduation day, he saw Alex again. They stood in their identical black gowns and caps, rows apart in the class photograph, their only picture together. In the chaotic aftermath, they bumped into each other. Alex smiled and wished him a happy graduation. For the first time, Julian thought his own name sounded beautiful. He echoed the sentiment back to Alex. And that was that until a year later at a high-profile charity gala in Los Angeles. Julian never expected to see him there. He hadn't heard of any sterling presence on the East Coast, a testament to the vast social distance between the two coasts. He watched as Alex, now in a perfectly tailored suit, gestured with a hand that wore an exquisite timepiece. Julian recognized the make. A limited Ion Patek Philippe his father had lamented losing at auction. The brilliant blue face glowed against Alex's skin. The price tag came to mind, and Julian's mood soured slightly. His crush was, it appeared, significantly wealthier than he was. The fantasy of being a sugar daddy was officially dead. He casually asked a man beside him who Alex was. The man looked at him as if he'd grown a second head, explaining that not knowing Alex Sterling in this town was a cardinal sin. Julian mentally rolled his eyes. He knew Alex, the classmate who had patiently tutored him in economics. He was asking about this version of Alex, the one who moved through the room with an aura of quiet power. The man, eager to impress, leaned in and whispered a summary of the Sterling family's net worth. Julian nodded, his mind quietly calculating. It was time for a graceful exit. He began a subtle, shuffling retreat, only to be stopped by a familiar voice behind him. It was Alex. He turned, a mechanical smile plastered on his face. Alex's own smile was genuine, his eyes filled with warmth and surprise. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Julian raised his glass in a toast, clumsily referring to him as his old teacher. Alex just laughed, that same bright, easy laugh from the library. He then asked if Julian wanted to get tacos later. The question, whispered like a secret in class, caught Julian off guard. He explained that he knew a place, a legendary truck, that was amazing. The gala's delicate canapés had done little to satisfy a real appetite. Guessing Alex felt the same, Julian readily agreed. They slipped out before the event officially ended. Alex's driver appeared with a Porsche 918 Spider. As the car sliced through the gilded streets of Los Angeles, Julian struggled to reconcile this reality with the Alex he knew, the one who wore the same few hoodies and t-shirts to class. This must be his crush's particular style, he concluded. He respected it. The Porsche eventually pulled onto a quiet, unassuming side street. They walked for a few minutes, the scent of grilled onions and cilantro growing stronger, until they reached a small, brightly lit taco truck with a crowd of people around it. Alex, in his designer suit, fit in surprisingly well, perching on a plastic stool and eagerly pointing out his favorite items on the handwritten menu. He seemed completely at ease. As they ate, Julian felt a sense of profound contentment, as if they had escaped a masquerade and found something real. This felt like a scene from a quiet, domestic future. He took a bite of a carne asada taco and understood. The flavor was perfect, a complex blend of smoke, lime, and spice. This, he thought, was love. Love for good food. His expression of pure bliss seemed to please Alex, who asked him what made this taco different from the ones back in Austin. The look in Alex's eyes, a mix of happiness, anticipation, and gentle amusement, was the same one he'd had when quizzing Julian on economic theories. Julian took the question seriously. After a moment of careful consideration, he noted that the corn tortilla was thinner, yet more resilient, than any he'd had before. Alex's face lit up with an appreciative grin, declaring Julian the smartest student in the world. He explained it was the most authentic nixtamalized corn tortilla, a rarity even in the best LA taquerias. The compliment was so over the top that Julian felt a flush of pride. They talked for over an hour, long after their food was gone. The owner, who clearly knew Alex, didn't seem to mind them occupying the space while a line formed. When they finally left, Julian's car arrived first. As he went to roll up his window, a hand stopped it. It was Alex's, strong and defined, the expensive watch gleaming under the streetlight. He was still smiling, but his gaze was direct. He asked if he could have Julian's personal number. Julian's heart leaped, but he managed a calm nod. They finally, properly connected. On the ride back, Julian replayed the evening. There was only one odd moment. When they were finishing their tacos, Alex had pulled out a small, sealed packet of fancy mints. He opened it, looked at Julian, then at the mints, then back at Julian. A complex series of emotions: reluctance, conflict, pain, and finally resignation flickered across his face in a matter of seconds. Then, he simply offered the entire packet to Julian with a polite smile. It was a bizarrely dramatic gesture for such a small thing, and Julian couldn't figure it out. Back in Austin, he began monitoring Alex's personal Instagram. The old one he knew from college was barren, a generic landscape photo for a profile picture. This new, private account was a window into Alex's life. A profile picture of a derpy-looking bear, a background photo of his silhouette against the northern lights, and posts from hiking trips and obscure farm-to-table restaurants. He also shared articles from his company's official page. Julian saved the handsome photos of Alex before tapping on a recently shared article. It announced a new project, a collaboration with a prominent painter. Julian's brow furrowed. The name was familiar. It was his own professional pseudonym. He remembered signing the contract last week, completely unaware that Alex's company was on the other end. He forwarded the article to Alex, who replied instantly, saying he had been looking through Julian's own profile. Julian sent a smug emoji, telling him to take his time exploring his rich and varied life. Then, he asked who was heading the project. The answer came back: Alex himself. Julian was shocked, wondering why the CEO would personally oversee it. Alex's reply was simple. He was a big fan of the artist. Julian paused, typing out, "You know that artist is me, right?" before deleting it. It would be more fun to surprise him later. He exited the chat and saw a new notification. Alex had liked his profile. Not a post, but his background photo of the aurora borealis, a subtle act only the two of them would ever know about. A wild thought sparked. What if Alex liked him back? He dismissed it as fantasy and went back to their chat to confess. He explained that he was, in fact, the artist. Alex sent back a winking emoticon, replying that he was, in fact, the CEO. Julian insisted he wasn't joking and sent a screenshot of his signed contract. A moment later, a voice note from Alex arrived. His voice, warm with laughter, said, "Well, old classmate, new colleague. Looking forward to working with you." Julian's ears burned. The man's voice was unfairly attractive. His crush was no longer a passive hobby. He was going to win him over. A few days later, they were in a group meeting. Knowing the meeting was in Austin, the city Alex's company was headquartered in, Julian had offered to order Starbucks for the team. Alex politely declined, saying Julian didn't need to get him anything. Frustrated at the missed opportunity to learn his coffee preferences, Julian messaged him privately, jokingly asking if he preferred some cheap chain instead. Alex laughed via text but insisted he was fine. When they gathered in the conference room, Alex set a sleek thermos on the table. During a break, Julian sidled up to him and asked what was in the thermos. Alex unscrewed the cap and let him smell. It was a strange, earthy scent. Alex, seeing his confusion, smiled and asked if he wanted to try some. He poured a tiny amount into a tasting cup. Julian, figuring Alex wouldn't actually poison him, downed it in one go. The taste was shockingly bitter, worse than anything he'd ever had. It was an assault on his senses. He recoiled, his face contorted in disgust, and he instinctively punched Alex's shoulder. Alex burst out laughing, catching his fist. He apologized, handing Julian his own coffee to wash the taste away. He explained it was a Californian health concoction, a type of bitter herbal tea. He just wanted to see Julian's reaction. Julian glared at him, but Alex's eyes were dancing with undisguised mirth. After the meeting, Alex asked where Julian was staying. He knew Julian had come from New York just for this project. Julian, despite having rented a luxurious villa, feigned distress and said he was in a hotel. Alex frowned, saying that wasn't practical for a 6-month stay. Julian sighed, mentioning he would start looking for a rental. He joked that he couldn't exactly buy a house here. Alex gave him a strange, unreadable look but simply offered to keep an eye out for suitable listings. That evening, after dinner with friends, Julian received a call from the property manager of his villa. The manager apologetically explained that another resident wanted to rent Julian's place and was offering to pay triple his lease as compensation. Julian scoffed, saying he wasn't interested in the money. The manager, sounding even more strained, mentioned that Julian hadn't even moved in yet, so it was a waste for it to sit empty. Julian was furious. He had slept there the previous night. He demanded to know who the presumptuous neighbor was. He was told it was the owner of the only other villa on their exclusive block. Furious at the nerve of someone wanting to occupy 2 massive properties, Julian jumped in his Panamera and sped back, ready for a confrontation. He arrived to find Alex Sterling standing in front of his door. There was a moment of stunned silence. Julian eyed him suspiciously. He remembered Alex's offer to help him find a place, and a wild theory bloomed in his mind. He asked why Alex was trying to rent his house. Alex explained, looking slightly uncomfortable, that since he didn't know the city well, he figured the best recommendation he could give was his own neighborhood. He lived there, he knew it had good energy and was safe, so he thought it would be perfect. When he found out the adjacent villa was taken but unoccupied, he had tried to secure it for Julian. Then he turned the tables, asking why Julian had claimed to be staying in a hotel. Julian, unable to think of a good lie, decided on belligerent truth. A long-term rental was basically a hotel if you didn't own it, he declared. Alex just leaned against the doorframe, a slow smile spreading across his face. He congratulated them on becoming neighbors. Alex invited him in for dinner, but Julian had already eaten. He saw the disappointment flash in Alex's eyes and, taking pity, offered to come in for a bit. Alex's mood brightened immediately, not because of the company, but because he insisted Julian had to try the stew he had been slow cooking for hours. Julian, defeated by the man's single-minded focus on food, followed him inside. The stew was annoyingly delicious. He drank 2 full bowls. While Alex ate, Julian took in his surroundings. The house was beautiful, a masterclass in warm, modern design. He joked that he expected a CEO's house to be a cold symphony of black, white, and gray. Alex shook his head, explaining that in California, the prevailing belief was in bright, open spaces that attracted good fortune. A dark, gloomy house was bad for business, or so his family believed. He described his family home in California, with its heavy mahogany furniture, embroidered tapestries, and a general aesthetic that was worlds away from the sleek minimalism of his Austin home. He spoke of it with a fond, self-deprecating humor. For a moment, Julian saw a flicker of something unexpected in Alex's expression. Not quite insecurity, but a kind of regional deference, as if he truly believed New York was inherently superior. Julian countered that both New York and California had their own terrible local beverages, putting them on equal footing. Alex laughed again. Their proximity blossomed into a routine. They became dinner buddies. Julian, inspired, started teaching himself to cook Californian cuisine, impressing Alex with his quick mastery of fresh, simple flavors. Alex would often bring him breakfast, leaving it on his doorstep. After Julian confessed he often went back to sleep, Alex started insisting he eat it while it was hot and fresh. Annoyed but secretly pleased by the concern, Julian gave Alex a key to his house, telling him to just come in and wake him up. The gesture hung in the air between them. Alex looked startled, not by the boundary crossing, but by the trust. From then on, their relationship deepened. They were a constant presence in each other's lives. They planted a vegetable garden in their adjacent yards. They went hiking on the weekends, where Julian feigned unsteadiness to hold Alex's hand for a few precious minutes. One weekend, Alex drove him 2 hours into the hill country, the landscape growing more remote with every mile. Julian briefly panicked, wondering if his crush was a secret serial killer, but they arrived at a legendary rustic restaurant known for its incredibly fresh, locally sourced food. The owner, a grizzled old man, greeted Alex like family. He overheard Julian asking what a pasture-raised chicken was and launched into a passionate lecture on the importance of flavor and quality. Over dinner, Alex explained the almost religious devotion people in his home state had for food, the freshness of ingredients, the precise control of cooking, the overall experience. It wasn't just about eating, it was a cultural pillar. Julian, charmed, asked when Alex would take him to California. Alex just smiled and said it was up to him. As they talked, Alex performed a ritual Julian had seen before, carefully rinsing his bowl and utensils with hot water from the teapot. Julian asked if it really did anything. Alex admitted it was mostly habit, a comforting gesture that made eating out feel cleaner. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Julian made an offhand comment about them having kids someday. Alex's expression became serious, and he replied quietly that he wouldn't be having any. After some prodding, Alex confessed that he didn't plan on ever getting married. Julian was stunned. When he asked why, Alex just looked at him with an intensity that made him feel slow-witted. "Because I can't," he said finally, his eyes sharp, daring Julian to understand. Julian, completely missing the point, leaned in and whispered, "Is it a medical thing?" Alex looked like he wanted to leave him there to pay the bill. He just shook his head and muttered for Julian to forget it. At the end of the meal, Alex pulled out his packet of mints, tore one in half, and offered a piece to Julian. Julian had looked it up online later. Apparently, this odd ritual was a sign of closeness and friendship among some Californians. The first time at the taco truck, Alex had given him the whole pack because they were still just acquaintances. Now they were friends. It was a strange, frugal habit for a billionaire, but Julian found it endearing. It made him seem like good husband material. Not long after, their project required Julian to fly back to New York for a week-long conference. The thought of a day without seeing Alex felt wrong. The week stretched into nearly 2. He was so busy he barely had time to respond to Alex's messages. By the time he flew back to Austin, his vegetables in the garden had already been harvested. He arrived at his villa late at night to find the lights on. He let himself in and saw Alex in his kitchen, busy at the stove. Alex turned, his expression deep and unreadable, and told him to wash up for dinner. It was such a simple, domestic greeting that Julian felt a lump form in his throat. Alex had known he'd be hungry after the flight. In the living room was a massive bouquet of red roses. Julian looked at Alex, confused, but Alex seemed just as surprised, saying they were on the doorstep when he arrived. Julian found the card. It was from a persistent admirer he'd met in New York. As they ate, Alex asked about the suitor, wondering why Julian had turned him down. Julian just shrugged and said the guy wasn't his type. Alex, curious, asked what his type was. Julian stopped eating, looked Alex directly in the eye and said, "I like men." The revelation hung in the air. Alex was shocked. Julian was equally shocked to realize Alex didn't know. All his subtle advances, all the shared moments, had Alex interpreted them as simple friendship? Had he been directing a one-man show all this time? The thought was mortifying. Before he could stop himself, the words tumbled out. "And I guess you also didn't know that I like you." Alex was speechless. He stared at Julian, his usual composure gone. Without another word, he stood up, left his half-eaten dinner, and walked out, saying only, "Wait for me." Julian was left alone in the silent house, the scent of roses and stew filling the air. He had ruined everything. A text came through minutes later. It was Alex asking if he was serious. Julian confirmed he was. Alex replied that he needed a week to give him an answer. The week was agony. Alex still brought him breakfast, but he left it in the kitchen without waking him. The easy intimacy was gone, replaced by a tense, fragile cordiality. At the end of the week, Alex texted, asking if he was free that evening. He wanted to give him his response. At 8 o'clock, Julian knocked on Alex's door. No answer. He was about to leave when his phone rang. It was Alex, telling him to use his key. He let himself into a dark house. The living room, however, was filled with the flickering glow of hundreds of candles arranged in the shape of a heart on the floor, surrounded by scattered rose petals. Alex stood in the center, looking impossibly handsome and incredibly nervous. Julian's first thought was that this was the cheesiest, most outdated romantic gesture he had ever seen. His second thought was that he was about to burst into tears. And he did. The tears came so fast and thick that Alex, alarmed, rushed out of his candle circle to wipe them away. Julian pushed him back gently, telling him to say his lines first. Alex, flustered, admitted he was so nervous he'd forgotten his speech. Julian, exasperated, told him to just improvise. Alex took a deep breath. "Julian," he began, his voice shaking slightly, "I like you." He explained that he'd never been in a relationship before. To him, love was like a slow-cooked stew. It couldn't be rushed. He felt like he barely knew Julian, that 3 months wasn't nearly enough time. He listed all the things he didn't know, his exact food preferences, his favorite movies, the stories from his childhood. He felt he had no right to confess his own feelings until he understood Julian completely. But Julian's sudden confession had changed everything. Felt like a miracle. "I couldn't let you wait," Alex said, his own eyes now red-rimmed. "Julian, I like you." Julian, crying and laughing at the same time, told him he was an idiot. You can get to know someone after you start dating. Waiting for perfect knowledge before acting is like forgetting to put the ingredients in the stew. He admitted he didn't know everything about Alex either, but he knew he was in love, and that was enough. Then, Alex brought out 3 framed paintings. Julian's breath caught in his throat. He recognized them instantly, though he hadn't seen them in years. Alex introduced them as if presenting museum pieces. Julian's first ever sold painting from when he was 12. His entry for his first international award at 15, and the single piece he sold from his 18th birthday exhibition. Alex admitted that the last one was on loan from a gallery that had refused to sell it, no matter the price. Julian sank to his knees, tracing the familiar brushstrokes through the cold glass, his entire life flashing before his eyes, collected and cherished by the man in front of him. Alex confessed that it wasn't New York that was special. It was Julian. "You're so brilliant," he whispered. "I never thought I had a chance." They kissed, surrounded by the soft, flickering light of the candle heart. Later, as they cleaned up the mess of wax and petals, Alex handed him the keys to a new Bentley. Julian laughed and asked, "I have the car. Where's the house?" Alex paused, then walked to his coffee table and retrieved a sleek, leather portfolio. He opened it. Inside, nestled in custom-cut foam, were not documents, but a collection of property deeds. "These are for you," Alex said simply. Julian shook his head. The New York Trust Fund kid had been completely and utterly outclassed by the Californian. Their life together was a study in cultural exchange. Julian learned Alex's strange verbal tics and his unshakable belief in the healing power of bitter teas. On a trip to meet Alex's family, they were greeted by a full contingent of Sterlings, whose welcoming smiles froze when they saw Alex arrive with another man. The dinner was tense. Alex's father asked Julian where he was from. When he said New York, Alex added Julian's personal mantra. "Only child, good zip code." The family looked horrified. Alex's mother muttered something in a musical, sing-song tone. Julian asked Alex what it meant. Alex whispered that it was the theme song to a popular old TV show. His mother then launched into a tirade at Alex for daring to bring home a New Yorker. Alex put down his chopsticks. He calmly announced that Julian had brought them a gift. Then he clarified that he, Alex, had brought the gift on Julian's behalf. A case of incredibly rare, 26-year-aged vintage wine. The mood shifted instantly. Alex's parents exclaimed that it didn't matter if he was with a man or a woman, as long as he was happy. The most important thing was that Julian seemed like a wonderful person. Then his father's eyes lit up. He asked if the wine was in the car, and if they could have someone bring it in right away.